I'm very sorry, my lords, but I want to first of all indicate that I think all of us in this chamber wish, as the government puts it, to stop the boats. We all want to stop the suffering of people who are coming to this country in a particular manner at the moment. So I think those of us who are proposing amendments, I'm sure, all have that very much in our mind. And I'm rising to support Amendment 4, which bears my name and others, and I want to support very much what the Noble Baroness Chakrabarti has said in relation to it. I refer to my register of interests as a lawyer and a former immigration minister. And I have real concerns, my lords, about any legislation that appears to threaten important laws or agreements that are in place and signed in the international forum by this country. I know there are those that take a divided view between domestic law and international law. There are those who regard treaties, international agreements and conventions which bear the signature of the UK as being less important and are inconvenient when the governments and others promote domestic policies. However, whether a government wishes to either disregard or indeed worse, to discard these obligations, I find that fundamentally unacceptable, and I do hope my noble friend, at least as a fellow lawyer, would agree. The Home Secretary has stated that there would be no problem in pursuing her new ideas. Apparently, she stated that she had consulted the finest legal minds in the country in her support. As my noble friend the Minister knows, I did ask at second reading if he would list these minds in case perhaps I wish to pursue some briefing or instructions to one of them in future. But I failed to get an answer to that, and perhaps he might now have a further opportunity to let us know who he is referring to or the Home Secretary is referring to. The eminent lawyers that I have consulted seem fairly confident, certainly, as is said by the Noble Baroness Chakrabarti, that no asylum seeker can per se be described as illegal, and this worries me intensely. At the Reykjavik summit, which was referred to before, last week a declaration was signed by all the participating states, including ourselves, which stated, as has already been said, a great support for the international conventions. They said, "We recall the increasing challenges of migration and the necessity to fight against trafficking and smuggling of migrants." I'm sure we all agree with that. "We commit to intensifying efforts to foster and improve international cooperation in this regard, while continuing to protect the victims and respect the human rights of migrants and refugees, as well as supporting frontline states within the existing Council of Europe frameworks." I could not agree more, and as I said, it was signed by the United Kingdom. It called for the building of a European legal community of shared values. That is something which I think we should all agree with too. It also referred to the Venice Commission. This was referred to by my honourable friend, the member for Henley, John Howell, in the other place while this matter was before them. It is a legal body which is equipped to deal with interpretation of concerns over conventions, and indeed the rule of law checklist is an inherent function of that body. That reference is important in my opinion. And also, our own Prime Minister, as has been mentioned, made it very clear in his remarks at the end of that meeting. He was talking about how and why it was so important that our work with our friends on the continent went on to support the values of freedom, democracy, and the rule of law. So, my lords, I'm confident, in fact, I'm sure my noble friend is not only going to accept this amendment, but surely he will embrace it, the opportunity that it provides to restate this country's important position in the rule of law and in our international relations. Those principles are so important. I'm finalising my remarks by just pointing out the amendment, of course, exemplifies our nation's unwavering dedication to upholding international law traditionally and being part of the development of international law. And that is terribly important. By supporting this amendment, we reiterate our commitment to fairness, to compassion, and indeed the respect of human rights, while remaining cognizant of the complexities surrounding the issue, which we all are aware of, and the sensitivities. But by upholding these principles, we also strengthen our global standing. And that, surely, my lords, is something that we ought to embrace ourselves. Whether the minister embraces some of the things we are suggesting, I will want to embrace that situation for our country.